Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for a very special interview with Simon Lewis. Simon, thank you so much for accepting my invite. Can you share a little bit about your story? I think a lot of people, especially within the carnivore community, know you very well, but it would be interesting to hear a little bit your origin story and how you came to espouse the benefits of a carnivore diet for you and your family.
Sure thing. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here. So I run How To Carnivore, which is a YouTube channel, Instagram channel, and it's also a program where we coach people on the carnivore diet. And I do it in partnership with Dr. Chafee. How To Carnivore has been really successful. We've had thousands of people go through the program. And our vision for How To Carnivore is that this is going to be one of many solutions where people can heal from metabolic conditions as well as autoimmune conditions and other health concerns without having to take medication and without having to jump on this endless merry-go-round of doctor's visits, meds, big pharma drugs, and sickness. We actually want to help people reverse these conditions, which we have been doing really effectively. So that's what my mission is, and that's what the big vision is, and it's working so far. I just hope that it continues to grow and we can help more and more people. As
Fantastic.
far as yeah, sorry, you go, Sarah.
Yeah, I think you were going to continue answering what I wanted to ask you about your personal story.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So my personal story started when I was a young boy, and I was probably 11 or 12, and I was one of those kids that was told that they had ADHD when I must have been at primary school. And I just found it, I was a good kid. I was trying hard, but I found it hard to concentrate. And my mood was up and down. And it meant that, I would have fights with my mum, or like during class, I was great sometimes, and other times I just flat out couldn't concentrate. And that was a little bit sort of distressing. And the teacher suggested to my parents, hey, I think Simon probably has ADHD. And they were a bit taken aback, and they'd never really thought about it before. And the teacher quite smartly said, before you go and get him on drugs to calm him down and settle him down, why don't you look into whether he has any allergies, and go and get him tested and see if maybe some of the food could be the issue. And my parents thought that's really smart. Let's go and investigate that before we go and put him on ADHD drugs as a young boy. So I went and had my allergies tested, and it came back with he can't tolerate gluten and he can't tolerate dairy, which I thought we thought was really interesting. And back then, not many people were on a gluten-free diet, or a dairy-free diet. So we fully embraced it, and I felt so much better straight away. My mood was much more stable. I had more energy. My brain was clear. I wasn't fighting with my mum as much. Life was a lot better. And like, at that age, all I cared about was sport. And my fitness really improved as well. And I found I could train more, and life got better. So from that early age, I realized, hey, what you put in your body is really important. And things like gluten and pasteurized dairy, humans aren't supposed to be consuming that, and I still feel that way. And so since then, I maintained a predominantly gluten-free diet, and mainly dairy-free. But then becoming a teenager and then early 20s at university, you start to let things slip. And I can look back on my life and see some of the times when things had been a little bit tough, and I hadn't been able to concentrate, and my mood had been all over the place. And I look back on those times and I now realize, hey, that was when I was slipping off with my nutrition. So then when it came to my mid 20s, and I was working full time and I was busy, and I wanted to maintain my body composition, I wanted to have energy, I wanted to be a productive person, like as productive as I could be. I thought, all right, it's time to get back on this nutrition train. I need to start eating properly again. And I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this feeling. It's like, okay, well, I need to eat properly. I want to put the best fuel in my body. So what is that? Around the time, there was this paleo movement, which in my mind is basically just eating whole foods. So you can eat things like meat, eggs, and whole vegetables, and you just stay away from processed stuff. And I thought, okay, that's perfect, because I already know that Definitely wheat is a massive no for me. And I don't really need to have massive amounts of dairy. I don't really need to have dairy at all. So I tried the paleo diet, and that was good. And life was definitely better than when I was eating things like up and goes or chocolate milks or sausage rolls and stuff like that that is more processed and does have more ingredients that quite simply I just didn't recognize, and I still don't really understand what they are. So paleo was a good start. And then I started sort of piece together that I really do feel best when I'm just eating meat and eggs. And fortunately, I came across Sean Baker's episode on Joe Rogan. I think the first one came out in 2017, but I wasn't clued in then. I didn't watch it till 2019. And I watched the episode and I instantly sort of connected with Sean. I thought, hey, everything he's saying makes sense. This guy is a doctor. I really understand what he's saying. He looks like he's in great shape. I really feel like I can relate to this guy. I love eating meat. I'd love to just eat meat all the time and not have to worry about eating veggies. The food prep is going to be so simple. The meals will be delicious. And if this can help me with my mental health, my concentration, and my body composition, then I just want to get involved. And so I tried the carnivore diet in the start of 2020, which was really convenient because it was also COVID times. So we weren't going out and I could simply experiment and do it from home. There was very little pressure. And instantly I felt great. And a big thing for me, and I think particularly today where life is so busy, we're trying to get so much out of every day. The big thing I noticed straight away was I could do a day of work and I could come home and I could work on something that I really cared about. I could still concentrate. I didn't just come home from work, hit the couch and crash. So switching to the carnivore diet straight away, I felt more mental clarity. I felt more energy. I lost a lot of the water weight and inflammation quite quickly. So I was like, this looks good. I look a little bit leaner. And then I found that it was really easy to put on muscle as well. So I've put on like 7 kilos since I started the carnivore diet, which for me, my weight was just like basically always the same. It was always about 92 kilos. Whereas now I can get up to 100 easily if I want to, and I still feel quite lean. So that's been great for me. And of course, after sort of listening to Sean on Joe Rogan, I very much fell down the carnivore diet rabbit hole because I was completely blown away, and I still am, how such a simple change in your diet can lead to such profound changes in people's health and people's lives. And at the time, Sean had this Meat RX podcast, which I'm sure is still out there. And it was just like episode after episode of people coming in and talking about diabetes, autoimmune conditions, IBS, mental health problems. The list goes on. And all they were doing was changing their diet to a carnivore diet, and these problems were going away. And these people had had decades of searching for an answer, decades of, being told by doctors, hey, you're just going to have to live with this. This is, there's nothing you can do. This is a genetic condition. But then when they changed their diet, it went away. So I still think it still blows me away. I still think it's so powerful, and it's something that people need to know about. I can't get my head around things like diabetes, where people are told, don't change your diet, just take more insulin. I haven't been able to come to terms with that. And I think the carnivore diet is extremely powerful. And it's not some magic elixir that's going to fix everything. But for autoimmune and metabolic conditions, it definitely should be the starting point that people change their diet and start eating what I'm starting to realize is a human diet. We're not meant to be consuming as many carbohydrates as we are, or as many processed foods. We're not meant to be consuming things like seed oils. Seed oils have only been around for 100 years. And look at the rates of sickness that have skyrocketed over the last 100 years. There's nothing natural about it. We absolutely should go back to eating a more natural diet and living in a more natural way. It's still embracing technology and all the convenience that we've got. And that's the other thing. It's so easy to eat carnivore these days. Like you're in America, I'm in Australia. I can jump online and I can buy beautiful grass-fed regenerative meat from a farmer who's not that far away. And I know you can do this in America. It's even better in America. And they'll deliver the food to your door.
Yeah.
And so you're getting this insane amount of nutrition and you don't have to go out and kill it yourself or raise it yourself, and it just gets delivered to your door. I caught up recently. I was in America, sort of really my first proper trip to America, which I absolutely loved. I caught up with a mate, Zach Strength on Instagram in New York City, and we went to a Starbucks in New York City, and he had a coffee. I didn't have a coffee. I just had water. We're chatting away, and I'm looking around. I'm like, mate, he's like this massive 6'6" guy, 240 pounds with long hair. It's like, dude, what are you doing in New York City? This looks weird. And he said this is great. This is the epicenter of commerce in the world, and yet I can get everything I need. And he's telling me about how he gets meat and eggs and raw dairy delivered from an Amish farm in Pennsylvania to his door, and he eats like an absolute king, yet lives like a king of the sort of, finance jungle in New York. And I was just thinking, this is brilliant. 2025 is a fantastic time to be alive. As long as people can open themselves up to, all right, how are we supposed to live? How are we supposed to eat? You've got the opportunity to do anything and live a really wonderful life. So that's like the message that I want to get out there. And I really want to help more people to achieve this through How to Carnivore.
Nice. Did you struggle with the transition from your diet before to carnivore? Did you miss any previous foods? Did you ever have sugar cravings, anything like that?
I wasn't addicted to sugar or at the time because I had cottoned on pretty quickly that, hey, you're not supposed to have a lot of sugar. For me, the foods that are addictive for me is like potatoes, basically. So like if you put a packet of potato crisps in front of me, like I'll just eat the whole thing. Or we call them hot chips, you call them French fries, that sort of thing. It's just on. But of course, those things don't make me feel very good. So I still get tempted by it, and drinking alcohol because I like the feeling, and I like the taste. So that's another thing which by that point I'd already realized, hey, drinking alcohol at times obviously not good for you. Maybe it's okay occasionally, but those are the two things that for me are the big temptations. As far as sort of how I felt, I felt good from the start. It took a couple of weeks maybe for my endurance and physical ability to sort of get back to where it was, because there is a fat adaptation period. For most people it takes 2 to 3 weeks, so that was definitely a thing. But at the same time, because I felt good and I felt lean, I had nothing in my guts, I kind of thought, well, I'm on the right track here. And yeah, I definitely had the Joe Rogan explosive diarrhea, that's for sure. For me, yeah, it seems like some people they get hard stools when they first go carnivore, or they get loose stools. And for me, it was just like loose stools, like really loose. Yeah, but like
Yeah,
definitely I was having more fat than I could handle. Whereas looking back, I mean, I should have just eased onto it. It seems
yeah.
obvious now, but I had way too much that I could handle.
And how long did it take before it resolved itself?
Oh, it took at least a week.
At least a
Yeah,
week, yeah. I've
yeah,
heard people also report back like weeks later, and but they stuck with it and then it goes away. So that's really good for somebody who has no other option. They have to do carnivore, they have autoimmune, or they just want to do carnivore strict. Stick with it, and even if it doesn't resolve within the first few days or first week or two, it might resolve by like the second or third month. So yeah, I
definitely.
know it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's a bit confronting as well because this can't be good for me. But you're not doing any damage to yourself. It's just there's too much fat in your body saying, "Get this
Yeah,
out of here." Yeah,
right.
100%. It can last weeks. Yeah.
So, what do you do in those moments where you do face the temptation, alcohol, maybe going out with friends, or you think you have a stressful day, the first thought that comes to your mind is a drink, or you're tempted by chips or French fries, or I think you call them crisps, like chips, right?
Yeah, we call them hot chips,
Okay,
or just chips. Yeah,
all
it's an
right.
Aussie thing.
So, what do you do when that moment happens?
Yeah, look, for me, all the temptation comes when I'm going out with people. When I'm at home, just give me steak and eggs. Just give me meat and eggs for every meal. Don't need to buy any of that other stuff. Very, very straightforward. You know, Certainly before I go out, I eat. And that's something that I've done for a long time. I think that's I don't in the sort of I don't know, like sporting culture of being an Australian, a lot of blokes will do that because you want to make sure that you're getting, enough protein, enough proper nutrition before you go out, and you don't want to be tempted by all the terrible food that's out there. So definitely have a steak before you go out. So then if you're at a party or you're at someone's house and the entrees start coming around, it's, I'll
It's
go for the prosciutto and the cheese, but apart from that, I don't need to go for anything carby, and it's not as tempting. So that's the first thing. And then I think before you go out, just make a decision. It's like, all right, well, tonight I'm going to stick with carnivore. It's no big deal. If anybody asks about it, I'll just let them know. This is what I prefer to eat. This is what I feel good eating, and generally people don't care. I've
yeah.
been out so many times, and I've ordered a pretty common meal is steak, potato and salad, or steak, chips and salad, or something like that. And so many times I'll just eat the steak, and no one will say anything. It's no big deal. I think we certainly build it up in our heads a lot. And somebody might give you a bit, you're so strict. Why you care about this so much? You got to remember your why. And for most of us, our why is our health. And we know what happens when we go off track. My why is because I've got stuff to do tomorrow, and I'm not having this hijack how I feel. I don't want to be, I don't want to have bad mental health tomorrow. I don't want to have bad energy. I don't want to be spiraling out of control. I've got to train tomorrow. I've got to work tomorrow. If you remember that why, it makes it a lot easier to stay on track.
Yeah. And also, I like to always remind people that if you slip up, it's fine. I feel like there's a lot of kind of taboo to even mention that somebody might slip off or right away, like they're not carnivore.
Yeah.
No, a lot of people are carnivore, even if sometimes they will have an off meal. This does not affect your identity. Your diet is not your identity, you know? So I think it's really important to, at least, I mean, that's how I coach my clients. Like, have grace, especially in the beginning. There are so many habits in place, mindset shifts. If you come from a history of binge eating or sugar addiction, usually that's the kind of cohort that gravitates towards my work because I talk so much about addiction.
Okay.
That that's still progress. When we start to increase the duration in between the binges or between the slip ups, that's progress. It's about training yourself to sit in that discomfort enough until you adapt. And then it gets better, it gets easier.
Yeah, I completely agree. I often have people say to me, "Oh, I've completely derailed my carnivore diet," and I say, "What do you mean?" Oh, well, I was perfectly strict for 2 weeks, and then I went to a friend's place, and then I ate, bag of chips and had ice cream. I was like, right. So over the last 15, 16 days, you were perfect for 15 out of the 16 days. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, that's a great start. You've never done that before. So just get straight back on the horse because you've made huge progress. So I get what you're saying. Completely agree.
Yeah. Yeah. If you count the number of carnivore meals you had versus that one dinner, let's say
Yeah.
that person had, like what percentage were you of all the meals, what percentage were carnivore? It's like
Mm.
95%. And that's complete. When you frame it this way, you get motivated and you realize all the benefits and how you're improving your health. But yeah, it's not, it's also a slippery slope because it depends on the meal. Because if you go off that one meal and it is deep fried Oreos and highly, highly addictive foods, that is going to create cravings way more than if your non-carnivore meal was, let's say, home cooked popcorn that doesn't have anything except a little bit of salt. Like on the addictive scale and how much it's going to drain your dopamine from your brain, one meal can drain a lot more than the other. So it's also paying attention to, like, also being mindful. If you already are in a position where you're just gonna go off the rails, stop right there and at least choose the lesser of two evils, because it's so much easier to rebound from a food that's not as addictive, that's not going to drain all your dopamine, as compared to something that's going to it's going to be brutal, especially if you've gone through an addictive history. The people that are watching probably understand what I'm talking about, how empty the brain feels for the next 2 to 3 days. Even sometimes day 4, day 5 might be the hardest to detox fully from that kind of exposure. So that's like a little word of caution. We're telling everybody it's okay, don't beat yourself up, but at the same time, do it responsibly if you must.
Yeah, spot on.
How has your family, is all your family carnivore, or do you try to
No,
push them into carnivore? Oh, okay.
no, no. And I don't try and push anyone. So my wife is carnivore-ish. She loves eating meat like I do. She eats eggs, but occasionally she's probably sort of a bit more paleo. She'll have a salad or some veggies occasionally. She's in great health, and it seems to work for her. I will say that she does modeling, and before a gig, sometimes she's suddenly a carnivore because she knows that when you go carnivore, all the inflammation leaves your body and the water weight
True.
and you look and you feel amazing. So even switching to carnivore for a few days before something like that is very powerful.
Right.
And
And no
then
bloating
yeah,
whatsoever. You could literally down a steak and then go to a photo shoot and there's just no bloating.
100%. Yeah, and that is just such a good feeling and such an advantage. So yeah, I mean, I think everybody should know that and be able to use that. If you're about to go to an event and you want to look amazing, well, do a couple of days of carnivore before, get rid of all that inflammation, you take away a lot of the stress. Now that I'm fat adapted and I don't have to eat all the time, if I was going to go to something like that, well, I would just fast for 24 hours beforehand because then you get even, I find, you get even more of the benefits. So that's, something I've noticed. I think, well, generally I'm noticing, basically I had two vegetarian sisters and now they eat meat. So whether or not I had something to do with it, they would never admit that. But they eat meat now, and I'm glad about that. And they definitely feel better. And this whole vegetarian dogma, in our household, when I catch up with my family, has fortunately dissipated. They're not going to become carnivores anytime soon. But I'm sure they can actually accept, all right, this is the way that we're supposed to be eating. We need meat to be healthy. And I think that's probably, I think that's reflective of probably a general shift worldwide in our understanding about nutrition. I'm starting to notice that this whole plant-based dogma is slipping away, and people are realizing, okay, meat is actually what we're supposed to eat. That's human food. Um, these plants that people are consuming and saying are healthy are loaded full of toxins. They're sprayed with chemicals like glyphosate, and they're shipped halfway across the world just so you can enjoy your flaxseed and avocado and all this stuff. There's nothing environmental, ethical, or healthy about eating that way. I think people are starting to notice. If you really care about ethics and the environment, you should be buying meat raised by a local farmer or rancher in your area. And you're going to get the added benefit of it being incredibly nutritious without any of the harmful toxins. That's really the way. And I think there's definitely a change. You've got the Maha movement in America. We've got that on a very small scale happening here in Australia. And I think people are waking up to what's going on.
Do you have children?
No, I don't have kids yet.
Okay. I thought because I saw a picture and I thought those were your kids, but I guess you were out with friends and I wanted to ask you about that. So, w are you wanting to have children?
Yes. Yeah.
And when you do, are you fantasizing about putting them on a carnivore diet?
Yeah, I'm fantasizing, but I'm well aware it's not going to happen.
Really?
Um,
Oh.
yeah. So look, I want my kids to be as healthy as possible. Yes, I think that a carnivore diet would be ideal, but I'm also realistic, and I don't want to put any particular pressure on them or any pressure on my wife. So, what one thing, I follow. I'm good friends with a great lady, Izzy. She has a Instagram page called the Meat Based Nutritionist, and she has young kids. And she, instead of weaning her kids onto rice bran and avocado and sweet potato, which today foods that people think you should be weaning your babies off milk onto. Okay, so you take your babies off um, something that's very high in saturated fat and cholesterol, which is breast milk, high in protein, and a little bit of carbohydrate because there is a little bit of sugar in milk, but
Mhm.
very minimal. And then you put them onto a high fiber, high carbohydrate, low saturated fat, zero protein food as their first choice. So riddle me that. How does that make any sense? So weaning kids onto meat, onto butter, onto eggs, I think it's the absolute perfect food for them. You know, so some little kids have to take laxatives because they can't go to the bathroom because they don't have enough saturated fat in their diet. So, you know, I really think a great starting point is put them on meat and eggs. Get them eating that way. You know, Izzy is a great example because she had two kids and then she had another third kid, which is a carnivore baby. And she will tell you the health and development of that baby is far and away above the other kids. Is that fair? No, it's not. But she didn't know about this information at the time when she was first having them.
Yeah.
Plus, her pregnancy with this child was far easier, and her recovery has been far faster because she's eating a carnivore diet as well. So these things give people a massive advantage. They give kids a massive advantage. And, you know, people aren't open to understanding this. You know, they're still feeding their kids a sugary, crappy breakfast when you could be sending them to school fueled, alert, sharp, with consistent mood by feeding them bacon and eggs, steak and eggs for breakfast. It's not a weird thing to do. It's not a hard change to make. You're just giving your kids proper nutrition. So that's gonna be my approach. And I think, you know, I hope it'll be really effective.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And if we look historically, babies were breastfed for far longer than we breastfeed our children nowadays, right? Sometimes up to 6 years. 3 years definitely very common, but up to 6 years even. And the foods that we're giving them right now to our kids and even the formulas, those foods were not available. We didn't have sweet potatoes that were that size, that were so high in carbohydrates. The bananas, if you go back and you look at wild bananas, it wasn't an edible food. It was all fibrous, had seeds in it, and we wouldn't have gotten much sweetness nor nutrition from it. So those are all hybridizations that are very recent to drive up our appetite for those foods. So our DNA is not prepared for all of this modern food environment, even including those new whole foods. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know, for anyone curious, look at the ingredients on baby formula.
Yeah.
You think the first ingredient should be seed oils? I don't. I think that's incredibly unnatural.
Yeah, that's
And then one of the
insane.
other ingredients is sugar. Do you think that's a good idea to be giving to kids? Yeah, it might fatten them up fast. You know, I was a fat baby on formula. You know, it's that's not good for you. That is not giving kids a good chance. You know, back in the day, it'd be, you know, if the mother can't breastfeed, you would find another woman who could breastfeed, and in the
Mm,
community you would share. And if that didn't work, the baby would drink goat milk because it's easier to tolerate than cow's milk. Of course, unpasteurized, raw dairy. You
right.
know, that's the way it was. But now, you know, now companies like Nestle are telling people, hey, the healthiest and cleanest thing you can do is give them baby formula. Yet in third world countries, they're mixing the baby formula with water that isn't clean.
Yeah.
And so mothers are doing this, giving it to their baby, risking their baby getting sick, and then their milk dries up. Now, how is that a good thing for the baby? It's this whole system is very much upside down and messed up.
Yep. Yep. I agree 100%. You know, this is why we do what we're doing, right? The education, the awareness, sharing that there is another way, not to be afraid of putting our children on an evolutionarily appropriate diet, which is the only diet that we ate, you know? Um, so you do, I'm assuming, cheese that is unpasteurized, raw cheese,
Our philosophy, or Dr. Chafee and I, is dairy can be used as a condiment. So you can have dairy with your meat. So you can have things like cheese with your meat, but the cheese is not a meal in itself. And
right?
so, yeah,
No raclette for,
uh,
do you do raclette though?
no, it's not an Australian thing. I haven't had it. I would have it. Yes,
It
definitely. If
looks
I was traveling, I
delicious.
would have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look great. Yeah, yeah.
So you do have it, you can tolerate it because growing up you realize that gluten and dairy aren't helpful. So now
Yeah.
you can do some
Cheese.
dairy as long as it's raw.
Yeah, exactly. Cheese seems to be fine for me. Cheese and butter seem to be fine.
Hmm.
Milk, not so much. Like a glass of pasteurized milk, I will feel my guts churning
Right.
basically straight away. So that's not ideal for me, and I don't feel best on that. I think meat and eggs are well, meat definitely is a complete meal. Eggs are pretty close. Dairy is not. But as a condiment with meat, yeah, absolutely. Some manchego cheese and some prosciutto is absolutely beautiful as a little entree.
Nice. And the Instagram page, did you start this just to post about what you were learning, or is like how does your life mesh with the social media world? Is it your full-time job or is it a side thing?
No, it's not my full-time job. And yeah, I started How to Carnivore because I was just blown away by all this incredible information that was out there and all these amazing people who were advocates of the carnivore diet. And back then, there weren't that many people who were talking about the carnivore diet because this is at least 3.5 years ago. Whereas now there's so many amazing influencers who are sharing their experience on social media. So that was my thought. I was like, I'll share all this online. I'll share this information that I'm learning, and I think people who are interested will follow along, and now quite a lot of people follow along, and it's a lot of fun. I've got to meet so many incredible people like yourself through this community, and I've just had a really good experience. And that's how I met Dr. Chafee as well. Dr. Chafee was he'd been giving a talk in the UK. It was a carnivore versus vegan debate, which they won, unsurprisingly. And it was during the sort of like COVID lockdown times. He came back to Australia, and he we had some funny stuff going on in Australia. He couldn't go to his home state of Western Australia until he did 2 weeks quarantine in New South Wales, which is where I live, Sydney specifically. But he didn't have to quarantine in a hotel. He could just go wherever he wants. So he could go out in Sydney, catch the COVID, and then fly back to Perth. It didn't make any sense. Anyway, he was in Sydney with a couple of weeks to kill, and he put up on Instagram, "Hey, I'm in Sydney with 2 weeks for 2 weeks. Does anyone want to catch up?" And I had been following him on Instagram purely because he was a carnivore doctor. That's all I knew about him. I didn't know anything about him. He only had 1,300 followers at the time. And so I just replied to the message. I said, let's catch up and do a podcast. And he's very much a yes man, Dr. Chafee. So he just straight away was like, cool, sounds good. And I was like, oh, geez, how do I do a podcast? I've got no idea. Never done one before. Um, so I was like, okay, maybe as a starting point, let's catch up first, and then we can sort of talk about what content we want to do. So we caught up for a coffee down at the beach in Bondi. I had a coffee, he had a water. I was still drinking coffee at the time, and
Nice.
yeah, and so and I was pretty surprised that he wasn't having coffee, but little did I know. And then so we started talking, and I was like, oh my God, this guy knows a lot about a lot of stuff. And we weren't even really talking about carnivore. We were talking about like history, politics, economics, and it was really quite mind blowing. And so I thought, well, we definitely have to do some sort of podcast. I have to get this guy on camera. He should have a YouTube channel. This guy should be a star. And so then I think the next day I invited Dr. Chafee round, and we filmed his first piece of content in my living room, and we went from there. And we started making regular podcasts and YouTube videos together. And of course, Dr. Chafee blew up basically straight away because this information was so sharp, it was so true, it was delivered so well, it was information that people had never heard before. Because I was hearing it and I was blown away. And I thought, okay, if we put this out there, other people are going to be blown away. So we posted the same content on the How to Carnivore YouTube channel, and he started his own YouTube channel, the Plant Free MD. And yeah, since then, Dr. Chafee has totally blown up, and it's been a wild ride.
I love that. I had no idea that you went that back, like that way back, 2020. I think I first saw his channel I don't like right before we filmed the first carnivore TV show, the reverse TV series. When did we film that? We're in 2025, 2023, I believe. January 2023 is when we filmed that. So I think like right before then is when I discovered his channel and we started doing interviews. So probably
Mm,
2022. It took a while until I discovered it.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
Dr. Chafee started, I would say, end of 2021.
yeah, that checks out. Yeah, there you go. All right. So, um, this is your side thing right now, but it's growing. Do you have
Yeah.
any aspirations, goals? Like, where do you see this going? All of the work that you're doing, very important work that you're doing in this community.
Well, I see myself as a sort of a support act to a lot of the big characters and growing people in the carnivore diet space because I do think there are incredible advocates who are becoming influencers for the carnivore diet. And if I can use How to Carnivore to really give those people a platform, it's going to spread the word about the whole movement. So, like me, if I can support your page in some way, or Bella or Dr. Chafee or all these people who I've gotten to know, then I think that's gonna benefit everybody. And then through How to Carnivore, our actual carnivore challenge, currently we have 300 people per month. At one point we had 400 people per month participating in the carnivore challenge. I want that to be 1,000 people or 2,000 people so that we have more and more people healing and reversing autoimmune and metabolic conditions a natural way without having to turn to medications, endless doctor's appointments, or just see their health decline for their whole life really quickly and eventually die prematurely or, just be basically unable to move or enjoy life towards the end. So that's my goal. I want people to, as a first step, when they have these conditions, they have these problems, know, okay, I have to fix the root cause. There is a root cause to this. And like diabetes is not a metformin deficiency. Like cholesterol is not this big monster that means that you have to be on statins for the rest of your life. Like that's not actually how it works. There is another way. So that's very much my mission.
And for people to join the challenge, where do they go? How can they sign up?
Yeah, you can go to howtocarnivore.com. There's information on there. And you can follow me on Instagram, how to carnivore.
I'll make sure that I link your Instagram bio at How to Carnivore so that people can check out your Instagram and also your YouTube channel. Do you have any other social media channels or places that people can find you?
No, that's it. There's a podcast as well. So if you listen to podcasts, you can go to just type in how to carnivore in your podcast player.
Okay, awesome. This has been great. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Simon. Thank you, everybody. Is there anything that you would like to add before we wrap up?
No, just to say thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for watching our little interview here, shedding light on some major players in the carnivore community. If you liked those kinds of interviews, you want me to do more of that, let me know in the comment section below. Also, let us know by giving this YouTube video a thumbs up, subscribing, and hitting that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I will see you in the next one. And if you are looking for more individualized support and coaching, you can check out my coaching packages at drsarahzaldivar.com/coaching, especially the premium and the bundle packages. They both come with unlimited email support. And so the more complex a case is, the more helpful it is to have that unlimited email support. So just keep that in mind. And also for my guides, you can check out my website, drsarahzaldivar.com/shop. This is where you will find guides such as Dopamine Brain, which will show you how you can increase your baseline dopamine levels using a specific brain rehab protocol that relies heavily on a specific exercise protocol. Also, another guide, Monster Mindset, shows you how you can raise baseline dopamine levels by 65% in a single session using visualization techniques that I have introduced called energy versus training visualizations. This is for the people who truly cannot move their bodies just yet. If you are going through extreme pain and you don't have enough healing done yet, I believe Monster Mindset might be the best way to raise that baseline dopamine and allow the healing using the power of the brain. And then from there, hopefully, we can graduate and utilize the full body. And I will send you also a free copy of my 30-day carnivore diet challenge guide if you sign up to my newsletter within 24 hours of this YouTube video going live. The link to sign up is in the description box below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.